As a child, and having to go to the dentist, um, I went through some rather rough periods with the dentist. The dentist wasn't gentle at all. He was very businesslike, as I remember, as a child, and there was an option of using uh, medicine to numb the pain and whatnot. And, however, back then, my parents were struggling, and as a result, could not use or could not afford to pay for that medication, Novocaine in specific. So my dental visits were, for the most part, without any type of relief from pain whatsoever. Um, that was over a period of a few years, and then uh, I, my parents switched dentists where they could afford to have Novocaine, but the experience itself had already set into me, embedded into me, an anxiety, a fear of the dentist and going to the dentist, and I believe as a result I developed a very severe gag reflex. I couldn't have anybody put their hands in my mouth or anything in my mouth. I couldn't even put my own hands in my mouth, and so I would automatically, anytime anything was in there besides food, I would gag, and as a result, had a very, very difficult time, even with Novocaine being applied now to dentistry. And back then, there wasn't, I don't want to say bedside manner, but there wasn't a friendly mannerism with dentists or dentistry. And this, we're talking in the 50s and early 60s. As a result, I built up a fear, anxiety, and very seldom went to the dentist, if at all. I would only go if I was in so much pain that nothing else could be done. And what I in turn did was found a dental surgeon who would put me out using IV, however, would then extract teeth, wouldn't do any um, work to repair or keep the teeth. So I've lost several teeth over the years as a result of just having teeth pulled.
Some of the advancements in dentistry have come in just how to deliver the dental care itself. Some patients come in and they are just so fearful of dentistry that the idea of having any dentistry done with just Novocaine that's just not enough. And in the past, we had the only tool we could turn to was laughing gas. And for some people, that was helpful, and for other people, that just didn't work out at all. In today's world, we're fortunate to have what's sometimes referred to as sleep dentistry, but to define what that is, it's really taking either some pills, which offer some control, or even better is IV sedation, where we have total control of the level of consciousness that somebody has. It's very safe. Very easy to do in the hands of somebody who's trained, and it's hospital training that they required to get that, and a special licensure to be able to use IV sedation.
My initial thought process, well, I've heard this before. They've always told me you're not going to feel a thing. My last visit to a dentist was a few years ago, and I was assured that I would be perfectly all right. I would have no pain, no gag, because they were going to use a product called nitrous oxide and laughing gas. And I was told that we could even hit your hand with a hammer and you won't feel it, you won't know it. So I tried that, and I never got any relief whatsoever from the nitrous oxide. It did nothing for me, nothing at all. And so when I initially contacted Dr. Pierce's office, and they were assuring me that, look, we have methods that we can use, that you'll be relaxed, we can sedate you, we can do a lot of things so that you'll be fine. I was doubtful. I had some serious doubts, and the anxiety was there. I had the anxiety right up until the moment that I met Dr. Pierce and his staff here when I physically came here, and he was immediately able to put me at ease, from the standpoint that I'd come back for the actual appointment. and he assured me that everything was going to be all right, that I wasn't going to be completely put out, that I would still have my senses about me, but that I was going to be sedated to the point where I didn't have to worry about gag reflux, I didn't have to worry about pain, that it would all be taken care of. And I trusted him. And so I made the appointment to come back. Of course, at this time, the motivator is still there. I was even in more pain, couldn't chew, and was on liquids. And his attitude, his I want to say aura, he wasn't. He didn't come approach me as, "Look, I'm the dentist. I know what I'm doing. He was very very upfront. He laid out all the facts, um, full explanation of everything that was going to happen. He did it in a manner that was reassuring to me. Was reassuring that I was going to be fine. That I wasn't going to have the gag. I wasn't going to have any pain. That I had no, even though he knew I was still going to have it, that I didn't have to worry about it, the anxiety or anything. That everything was going to be fine, and he showed that too. That they did an initial examination. He was very gentle. Um, Asked me each step that he was doing. He explained to me what he was doing and why, and the need to do it, which is reassuring in itself. That he would take that time rather than just bring me in a chair, do what he's got to do, and leave. That he took the time to explain to me what was going to happen and how, and how he was going to ensure that I was okay. Well, obviously, he suggested the sedation process, and he offered two choices and explained the choices to me: either taking a pill and being sedated that way. And he explained to me how that worked and what I would feel, what I wouldn't feel. Um, and then he explained the IV process and how that worked and what would happen during that. And he was very clear to say, it's not like when you went to the surgeon where you were completely out and you woke up and your teeth were gone. You're going to be semi-awake. You're going to know what's going on. And he explained to me, I have to have you that way, so that there are certain procedures where I'm going to have you move your mouth and your jaw. And he said, so I need you in that. He said, but don't worry about it. That you're going to be fine. I thought initially that I wasn't going to like this. When Dr. Pierce first told me that, look, you're not going to be completely out. I had some really anxiety over that, thinking that in the past I've been put out, haven't known anything, didn't know what happened, didn't want to know what happened, and when I wake up, and that's it. And so initially I thought, I don't know if I'm going to like this. I don't know if this. I thought when they said sedation that I would be out, and similar to and he was very careful to explain to me, this is nothing like being to the oral surgeon. This is a different type of sedation. Obviously very nervous. I'll tell you though, when I walked through the door, the first person I ran into was Dr. Pierce when I walked through the door, and the waiting room was crowded. There was a lot of people in there. And he looked up from what he was doing and he immediately said, "Hi, Mike, we're ready for you." And I didn't even think he remembered me, or I had only met him briefly. And that in itself, that he knew who I was, why I was there, and immediately reassuring me as I'm walking through the door, I haven't even checked in yet, was the start of the process, which was very comforting. And so very shortly thereafter, they had me go sit in the chair, recline it, relax, and then they start with putting safety glasses on and preparing things around me, but at the same time reassuring me that just relax, you're going to be fine. And then I watched him set up the IV setup, or start the IV setup, and he came in and he says, "I'm going to start an IV," as soon as we get the IV established, he said, we'll sedate you and go to work. Had a little difficulty getting the IV started with finding a vein, and as he explained it, he said, we had you um, on a trying to think of the word, fasting for the last several hours because they have it, it's a requirement to fast prior to the IV, and so he said you're a little dehydrated, and so we're having a little trouble getting the vein. But he reassured me. He says we're going to get it, and not to worry, and put warm compresses on me to. I would imagine it was also to help find the vein, but at the same time it was comforting. When the IV was started, there was no pain, didn't feel a thing. When he started the IV solution, never felt a thing other than. Now he says I fell asleep. He tells me I fell asleep immediately because I was snoring. I don't recall it. From what I recall, I was awake the whole time, but I was kind of in a different place. That I was physically aware of everything that was going around me. I don't want to say I didn't care, but I was so relaxed that what was going on around me didn't affect me. Um, whatever it is that they use, I understood when he would ask me to open my mouth or do certain things. I could fully comply. Knew exactly what he was asking me. Had a little curiosity a couple times with what was going on, but couldn't say anything because my mouth was. But I had no gag reflexes whatsoever. Could feel the devices in my mouth, but it didn't affect me in any way. Um, the procedures, the drilling, he had to do a root canal, actually two root canals. Uh, didn't didn't affect me in any way, shape, or form. He gave me Novocaine. I knew the needle was going in. Never felt it or never understood. No, didn't feel any pain associated with it. I was fully on board with whatever was going to happen. I just it didn't for my complete anxiety that I had and fear and everything else that went on was gone. There was no anxiety, no fear, nothing that that I there was in my mind there was no reason to question anything that was going on at that point. During the process, I do recall thinking to myself that, well, now I know I can come back here because that was the other aspect of it. I was going to give this a try, but and even though he said that you need to come back for additional work, um, I was kind of on the edge of whether I would ever come back or not. And at that point, while I was under and while I was doing the process, I thought to myself, what were you worried about? There's nothing to be worried about here, nothing at all. You're not in any pain. You're not uncomfortable in any way. You're just getting things done, and things are happening around you that you know, it was no big deal. I was so relaxed that I just, um, you know, I thought to myself, well, keep going, get it all done. That part went through my mind was, gee, I wish he could get it all done now that I'm finally here and feel this way, fully knowing that he couldn't, that he didn't have the time and whatever to do that. But because of that, I have no problem. In fact, I have got to make another appointment today. I have no problem coming back and going through the entire process again. I would never do this before. I would never consider coming back to a dentist to get routine work done. That just wasn't in my philosophy or anything I would do. That there was, I wouldn't have anything to do with it. It's expensive. There's no question about it that the cost of coming to the dentist and having it done this way is very expensive. I don't know if everybody could afford it. I can simply because my financial problem, plus insurance, partially covered it. But the bottom line though is it really wasn't the money involved at all. It wasn't the expense. I don't care how much it would have cost. I really didn't, and I would have had it done this way anyways. So I don't know if everybody could afford it. But on the other hand, even up front at the staff, they explained very thoroughly what the costs were involved, how I could go about paying it, even payment plans and things of that nature were available to me if I wanted. So that, by having a payment plan could also make it very affordable to others. So even though I chose to pay what the insurance didn't right off the bat and right up front, then I think others could very easily afford it through the payment plan process. This has truly been a remarkable about face from what I had in the past with the anxiety that I had and the fears and not wanting to come. And now it's completely different. It's completely changed. And so I thought, why not? I feel comfortable.